Yes. Let's do Talk Melrose, please. Good evening. I'm Tom Catalini.
I'm Eugenia Gibbons.
And I'm Jen LeClaire.
This is Let's Talk Melrose. Melrose, a show where Melrosians talk to Melrosians about Melrose, and there is a lot to talk about this week.
So much going on right now.
There were citywide elections. We have a new mayor, 8 city councilors. We have one of those city councilors just announced that she is going to run for the state rep's position. We have the superintendent of school moments ago announced she's retiring, and we're here to talk about the Beebe school and all the proposals there. So much news, but let's start with the big story.
Huge.
The big story in Melrose.
Breaking.
For sure.
Melrose Rotary Club Family Feud event that we talked about last Friday night. We came, we saw, we conquered.
We conquered. Owned.
I mean, I knew we were good at a lot of things, but we just dominated.
It wasn't, I don't want to gloat, but it wasn't even a competition.
First we took down the Melrosies.
Mm-hmm.
Played well,
Great
played a
team.
good round, great team. But then I think the real moment. I mean, there was a big election, in Melrose last week, but sorry, mayors.
Yeah, the mayors actually.
The mayors got served.
Yeah, they actually lost. So
us.
we made it to the final round. The top 2-point getting teams get to the final round, and it was Let's Talk Melrose show team. Now, a lot of credit goes to our team captain, Mr. Tom Shampoo,
Tom Shampoo.
Absolutely, led us to victory.
He did.
and our anchor man, Dr. Michael Miner.
Yes.
And we were
Yeah.
just sandwiched in the middle,
between
and we just
the brilliance. It's
we
true.
went along for the ride,
It's true.
which is kind of how this show works.
It was so much fun.
It was a lot of fun.
I knew it was going to be fun, but
No, it's so fun.
It was the
Way
most
more
fun I've
fun
had
than
in
I
a
could
really
have
long
imagined.
time.
Melrose Rotary, they've got like 10 teams from across town. It was fun. It was a professionally emceed event.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They had the big screen, all the electronics set up, a scorekeeper, an MC, and it was fun to watch when you weren't playing, and it was fun to play.
It was great when you were winning.
I think we enjoyed it maybe a little bit too much, but it was a blast.
Yeah.
And like many things that are fun in Melrose, it did a lot of good at the same time.
Yeah.
So I checked with Bill Butler, who's on the board of directors at the Rotary and active in that organization, and he got some preliminary information. They raised, I think, nearly $5,000
Nice.
at that
Excellent.
event. Where does the money go? It goes to the Melrose Rotary's Charitable Fund, and they award money all throughout the year, all the time. They do tons of things. There's a few samples. This list is too long to read, but he did say in the past 10 years they've given out over $130,000 in donations. Melrose Community Garden, Bread of Life, that was one of the teams that was there. Horace Mann, Get Up and Go, Look What's Happening Community Calendar, Melrose Arts in April, Polymnia, Melrose Symphony, on and on the list goes. So it's just a lot of fun and a great community building event and a lot of good happening thanks to the Melrose Rotary.
Yes. Thank you.
We wish any teams next year that are going to try to come and beat us. We're going to be defending our title next year. And we think just raising all kinds of money for the city, based on our celebrity alone now.
Well, two things. One, we are undefeated.
Yes, true.
And if people have not connected the dots yet, we are now an award-winning show.
Absolutely. The award-winning Let's Talk Melrose team.
That's right.
True.
But there's part of
There's
me
the
that
evidence.
thinks maybe we should sit it out next year and just never play again. I don't know if we'll be able to rise to the same level again.
Yeah, we'll have to
Should
see
we
how
go
we're
into
feeling.
retirement?
No, there's only one way to find out.
Should we go into
Wait,
retirement? Should we run for re-election?
Can we get the T-shirt? Can we get the T-shirts raised up into the rafters of Memorial Hall next year?
T-shirts were fantastic, by
Yeah.
the way. Nice design.
Thank you.
Quotes from our audience.
Oh, we should have had one. Yeah. Well.
Oh, yeah, we
there's
should.
pictures. There's pictures on our page.
Yeah.
Let's talk Melrose.
Yes.
And thank you, Tom Catalini, for the present this week.
This had to come into
you can see. There you go.
existence.
You can't win trophies and not have a mug.
A mug. There we go. Let's talk Melrose mugs.
Yes, the merch. So
The merch.
stay tuned, all the fans out there.
Yeah.
We're going to get in the merch business for sure. All right, let's get to the news of the week.
Oh my
Lots
God.
happening.
Yeah.
Eugenia, do you
A
want
lot happened just today.
A lot
Yeah.
happened
Today.
literally
Oh my
in the
God.
last hour.
Right.
Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about that first before we get into some of the breaking latest updates from today before we get into the Beebe School
Yeah,
discussion?
I'll follow whatever you want to do, Tom.
I think Eugenia had us teed up for the
Yeah.
Beebe School. So starting on October 29th, this came into being. It's been talked about for a while, but what's the framework for that?
Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Jen. So the Beebe School project is on the city's agenda for issues that it's taking up. What is the Beebe School? Is the first question. It's one of a number of city-owned properties. The Beebe is over on East Foster.
West Foster.
Excuse me, on West Foster. It was formerly an elementary school in the district. It is now currently being leased by a private entity called Seam Collaborative, where they are running a school program. But as you know, in Melrose, we're frequently up against this challenge of needing to find classroom space for an ever-growing school-age population. And so reclaiming the Beebe School and reusing it as a district school is on the table. There was a meeting on October 29th of the school committee, and at that meeting, Superintendent Cindy Taymor presented two proposals for how she could use, or how the district could use the Beebe School. Those proposals are available online, and we can go into sort of some of the nuts and bolts of them in our discussion. And there's going to be another meeting next week, the 19th of November, which is open to the public.
There's a meeting right now.
There's
Yeah.
a meeting
Yeah.
right
I
now
think
that's
too.
happening, but the meeting happening next week on the 19th is to receive public feedback on those two proposals that were floated. So what are the two proposals? Well, one would repurpose the school so that it would be a pre-K and kindergarten facility. The other proposal would repurpose the school for a K-5, kindergarten through 5th grade school district, school building for the district. And each of those comes with a different price tag. So one of the questions that's sort of outstanding is cost. It's probably a key driver. Superintendent Taymor was only able to provide costs for operating the buildings in those two scenarios. So if the school was to be repurposed as a pre-K and K school, we're looking at a budget of, a cost to operate of about $400,000 a year versus a $1.7 million operation budget that she presented for the more substantial repurposing of the building. So it's really important, I think, for folks to realize that that is only the cost of operating. That does not take into consideration any capital expenditures or any costs that it would take to renovate the building.
Well, and I think you're going to be careful quoting those numbers. Those are the ones in the proposal, but even members of the committee, when I watched the meeting, were questioning to understand what some of the assumptions were that built that.
Yes, yeah,
Because
there
there are
were-
very different assumptions around staffing, and every move you make has a cascade effect.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the cost is a little bit tricky to analyze. And the other thing that I thought was odd is the city owns the buildings,
Yep.
as they do, and maintains them across the entire city and the school system, and the school runs the programs within them. So it felt to me a little odd that this was it felt narrow in terms of being a school committee discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how does the city sort of get involved in the broader discussion? Because there are presumably capital costs, and I don't know if the city is thinking about other potential uses for that building or
Yeah.
whatever. That was my.
It's unclear to me if the city's thinking about other uses, but you raise a good point, Tom, which is who's responsible for making the decision and kind of what drives that decision is. I was struck by that too. So my understanding is the school committee and the superintendent, what falls under their purview, and particularly under superintendent's purview, is determining the school model. So what type of school model does the district adopt?
Yes.
And that can help inform and possibly drive the use of a building. But it's the city, because the city owns the building, there is an opportunity there, I happen to think, that there's an opportunity there to once again look at things holistically and take a comprehensive approach to figure out what are the many needs that the city's trying to address with buildings, school being one of them, and how do we make these things work together. So there is definitely a tension there between kind of who's driving which
Right, and
point.
I struggle to understand that because this was talked about as sort of a bullet item, at least in terms of the override, last spring. And then we just had an election with all these new elected officials, and there's a lot of discussion about this. So this has kind of been on the table for a while. But then once again, it feels like it comes up all of a sudden. And so just to go over the basic dates, they started talking about this on October 29th. They're having another meeting tonight. There's a public forum next week, but they're scheduled to vote on December 10th. And so it feels like it's all of a sudden it's happening real quick, and it's already boiled down to two options, which it seems like actually superintendent said there were many more options. So I think she said in 2016 when they were trying to push through and override the city, due to the increase in the population and enrollment, she had come up with 9 potential options for all kinds of different models to deal with that, and they ended up putting the modules onto the schools. So it's like it sort of all of a sudden to me got boiled down to 2 options, and it's like, well, what are the other options? And that's what a lot of the chatter is online in the community group and all that.
Yeah. So again, I think I think this boils down to like a communications and perception issue, because I mean, I think the school committee and the superintendent and the folks who have been charged with doing this work, I mean, they didn't just start talking about it on October 29th. Obviously, I mean, I just want to make that clear. They've been working on this issue for a while with the assumption that the Beebe school was going to kind of come back into their purview, but you're right that the conversation has been brought to the public only recently, and so I think that's where that's why it feels like
I'm
a little
confused, because I think they may officially only have started talking, because right on their website they say the school committee's review of potential alternative uses for Beebe School began on October 29th.
Yeah.
The official,
So like as an agenda item, and it only got
Right.
30 minutes. Tonight it's got 20 minutes, and it just seems like feels like it's not enough
It feels
time.
like a very compressed timeline given the amount of the investment and the potential time that it would take to, I mean, there's an entire process that has to be undertaken once a decision is made, and that in and of itself requires time. You're going to have to, the city's going to have to procure the service of, an architect or an engineer to figure out what is the potential for that building. They're going to have to then go out to bid once they determine what course of action they want to follow, and then renovate a building. If you've ever renovated your kitchen,
right,
that not everything sticks to schedule. So
that's why I haven't renovated my kitchen actually.
If the goal, so one question is timing. Really, what's the goal, and when are we trying to get into this building?
Here's an odd thing, because several committee members, not several, a couple of them spoke up at the meeting.
We only have several
that I saw, but that timing was, of course, brought up as an issue, and there's many things to weigh in that, but it was. The superintendent did point out at one point that the Seam Collaborative, who occupies the space now, is willing to vacate as soon as they can find a new building. So I guess the thing's under lease till 2021. The city has needs, the school system has needs, the Seam's willing to move, their board voted, she said, and all that. But she said that if they haven't found a new place by January, then these 2 options are kind of off the table, and they have to go back to the drawing board and consider other things, which made me curious as to why you would schedule a vote on December 10th if 3 weeks later you have more information that's sort of critical to making this. That's where it does feel compressed.
I would have that question too. Yeah. I mean, I understand the desire to kind of get things moving. I applaud that, but you're right. There seems to be still kind of a lot of moving parts, with that being a pretty critical one. Now, you could argue that, okay, if we buy more time, are we just going to sort of be having the same conversation for a while longer, as opposed to using that time to kind of get some things moving? I don't know.
I mean, I personally think it's an exciting opportunity to possibly buy yourself more time because of what we talked about. There's new leadership that's coming into the city. There was a pretty big announcement tonight about Superintendent Taymor's intentions to retire.
Yeah.
And so I think that there's nothing wrong with taking more time to really have a thorough, well thought out process and plan put in place with a clear timeline. Not to suggest that that hasn't been done. I just think we're in a different moment than we were even a few months ago.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I don't think anybody's looking for, perfection, to let perfection be the enemy of the good here, right? We want a good, solid proposal. I personally, as a parent in the district who is I have a young child in elementary school, I have another one who's going to be doing the kindergarten shuffle in a couple of years. I'd be okay with taking a little bit more time just to make sure that the solution meets a number of different needs, not just this very immediate concern, because it matters. It matters.
I totally agree with you, and I think that
I missed the opportunity at the beginning. School's in session, so the clock is running.
How many of those sound bites do you have there on?
You're going to find out.
I'm going to find out in the course of the next. We only have 20 more minutes. Anyway, so yes, I sorry, I agree with you that there's I've heard a lot.
Point Gibbons, now to LeClaire. Go.
Point, counterpoint. I think it is a balancing act, though, to be sure, because you don't want to study it forever. And
yes,
so, how do you get to?
But I want to say that we've heard a lot of people at the October 29th meeting. You can hear people echoing what you just said, Eugenia. That they want to hear more, they want to learn more, they want to have some time to kind of weigh the options. There were a lot of similar questions. So let's tell people how they can communicate with the school committee. So we mentioned the meeting. It does come up and it feels like short notice. Again, we've gone through this before with other meetings.
7 o'clock
Yep.
at
the Learning Commons.
Tuesday the 19th at 7 p.m. in the Learning
Commons at the high school.
Which is a great space to have a meeting.
It's a plenty big space. It's a great space for a meeting. If you can't make it there, the school committee, they do want to hear your questions, comments, concerns. So visit the school committee site at the melroseschools.com and click school committee, and you can find your way there.
Hello, caller. You're on Let's Talk Melrose.
The award-winning Let's Talk.
Oh, the award-winning. Sorry, you're on the award-winning Let's Talk Melrose.
Survey says, who's your favorite caller?
Who's our favorite caller?
Who's our favorite caller? All right.
We love all of our callers.
I'm going to...
is Scott.
It's
Scott.
Of course it's Scott.
Scott, did you see Family Feud last week? Were you in the audience cheering us on?
I have spies all over the place, so I did get a bootleg copy of it, so I did see that. But my question is, who was your favorite all-time Family Feud host? Was it Richard Dawson, Ray Combs, or was it Louis Anderson?
Dawson. You forgot another one. There's one
right
now.
There's one
Steve
now.
Harvey now, but Dawson.
Steve Harvey. Yeah, I grew up.
And of course, Steve Harvey.
Yeah.
I grew up with Richard Dawson. When I watch it again, it doesn't look the same. I will say that.
It doesn't hold up.
I'm gonna go Steve Harvey. They're
Okay, you're going to Steve Harvey.
I'm going to Steve Harvey.
I'm going with the Melrose Rotary host.
But I'll tell you who I
don't even know.
You know who I want the next host to be? I wish it could be T.C. Rastani of Melrose.
Oh, you never know. But my question is, do you think if Richard Dawson was doing that today, there'd be a lot of lawsuits for all the kissing that he did on the program?
Yes, that's my problem when I go back and watch it. It's a little creepy.
It makes you a little uncomfortable there, right? Especially when he's going up and, it is a little creepy. I agree with you there, Tom.
Yes.
But, now, the awards that you have there, are you going to be displaying them at all different locations around town?
Oh,
we're planning. Yeah, we're planning a tour. Yeah, we're planning a trophy tour. Yeah,
you can come
definitely.
take a picture with it. Starting
Are you
next
going to have
week
at next year's Victorian Fair? You're going to have the awards out there so people can take selfies.
We're going to be lobbying to lead the Memorial Day parade too. I think.
We should bring them. We're talking about schools. I think we should bring them to the schools, have the kids have a chance to visit with us, see the trophies.
It's inspirational. They can aspire to
greatness.
To greatness, exactly.
Thank you,
Well,
Scott.
you know what?
Thank
It's
you.
an unbelievable achievement, and you should pat each other on the back.
Okay.
You know what?
We haven't stopped doing that.
We're going to take your advice on that, Scott. Thanks for calling in.
This is great.
All right, thanks. Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. All right, school's back in.
School is back in session. That was recess.
But to Jen's point, she was noting that if you cannot attend the meeting next week, can you all hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
MelroseSchools.com. Click on School Committee, and there's links there to be able to email your school committee
And
members.
Let me just give a quick rundown of who's on the committee.
Well, hold on 1 second. I just want to say also MMTV always has the government meeting stream.
Yeah, that's right. You can watch from
home.
home. That's
Streamed or on demand.
That's right.
That's where I
the
watched the one
heroes.
from October 29th.
Yeah, me too.
Ed O'Connell is the chair. Margaret Driscoll is the vice chair. Lisbeth DeSelm, John Obremski, Jen McAndrew, Jennifer Razzie Thomas, and the mayor. So last week it was Gail Inferner. And maybe by next week, I think Paul Broder's going to be sworn in this week, so he'll be on the committee.
Yeah.
So that's a lot.
It's a lot of new things happening. It's true.
Yeah.
Lot.
So
Yeah.
Superintendent's
Is
retiring.
retiring. We have a new mayor.
New mayor. 8 new city councilors. There's still in Ward 7. I think it's in a recount.
A recount.
We don't have the
Official
final answers
recount
yet.
is slated for 11/21.
Yep.
So the school committee, 3 people ran unopposed incumbents and won their seats back naturally. So there's some stability there, which I think is good in this situation. But with everything else in play, personally, I'm not so sure. It feels like we're moving a little too fast.
I would say once again it comes down to there are opportunities for more dialogue and more and better communication.
And
even with
more
district-wide emails. I mean, the email kind of came out today, which is great. I was glad to see it. But I think to your point, it the meeting was on the 29th. It's now November 12th, right? But they're rolling out virtual backpack, so that's a communications tool. I'm hoping that makes it easier for more frequent updates to the community.
And just more information gathering. Because as I said, it's not just, it's being presented as if it's a solution to a challenge that is facing parents of younger children. But we have a district that is also aging, and there are other needs and other grades in terms of size and classroom needs and space.
Yeah.
So we don't want to inadvertently lock ourselves into a solution that works today when we might need to have some flexibility down the line.
And I think it seemed to me from the bystander watching the meeting that they felt that pressure, right? Kindergarten enrollment starts like in February, I think they said, and there's already some strain on the system, particularly for the younger kids. And then people online were pointing out, well, if you put K and pre-K together there, then those kids are going to go through multiple transitions pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
There's more
But
people
also,
driving to a central
That's
location.
not what should be driving a massive decision about a capital expenditure. Like enrollment in February should not, in my opinion, should not be what is driving. And I think it maybe shouldn't be presented as if that is the major factor.
I don't think it was presented that way, but I think the point is there's a lot of variables.
Yes. No, there are.
And that's what got me to sort of think like, okay, we need to maybe understand this a little bit more clearly. So some people had talked about the proposal, both public comments in the meeting, and I saw online that it felt a little uneven.
Yeah.
So you're citing some numbers that I think, are based on, I'm not sure if it's apples to apples assumptions. People pointed out the language for one option seemed to be kind of negative, and the language for another one seemed to be positive. Somebody pointed out that, geez, there's some couple of typos in there, which everybody's human, but it's something this complex and data rich. Has it gone through a rigorous analysis? Is it presented in a way that, everybody who wants to weigh in and understand what's going on needs some help, and I guess having it presented in a clear, organized manner.
Yeah.
And then it seemed like it's all of a sudden it's narrowed down to 2 options when it's a more complex issue.
Right. And I appreciate the folks who have done the work thus far to get us to the options that they're presenting. Like, I think that's great work. In that October 29th meeting, again, they later in the meeting, they start talking about how there were other options that were looked at, and we've determined that really these are the best 2. So but I'd still like to I'd still like to see that. What were they? Because I know one of them was something kind of I had thought of, and I mean I'm no expert. Well, what about this? Well, we thought about that, but it doesn't work because of XYZ. Okay, great, but let's show that, and let's have it. But I still want to hear more on that.
Show your work.
Show your work. In the presentation that they put out, there could be some appendices. There could be, there can be that information can still be made to the public too, so that we can all kind of get to the same conclusions together. Would be great.
I think it's hard. Like, you can't give people 200-page spreadsheets to go through.
That.
So no, it's balanced. But you're right. They did talk about the administration doing some work and considering many things. We just didn't get to see it.
Yeah.
And the other thing the superintendent said.
I mean, I have faith in that, but I'd have more faith in it if we saw it.
The other thing the superintendent said that I thought was interesting was just about, a lot of it has to be kind of set by the school committee in terms of what does the community believe they want in a school system, what's the best fit. There are she talked about working in a number of different school districts, and she's seen all different models be successful. And she was talking about things like some schools are K-5, some are K-8, some have, the 5th grade part of the middle school, whatever. The high school maybe is 8. There's different models. And at the heart of it, she said, good teachers and who care a lot is what, is the sort of the secret sauce. So you can have a success with any of those. But the community and the school committee, who's really been sort of put in that position to speak for the community, needs to set that tone a little bit. So that's what I heard from watching it, and I thought it was a little bit of kind of asking the school committee to maybe take a more of a leadership role in that discussion, to have that. So she was sort of saying she could make a lot of different things work, or maybe it's not her, but like it is possible to make a number of different configurations work from an educational perspective. But what do you guys really want to do as a city, as a school committee? And it seems like
what a welcome question. That's great.
That's why this meeting next week is a great opportunity for the public to weigh in. The process playing out in a transparent and open way is a good opportunity to make sure that there's city input and community feedback provided. And to Jen's point, I mean, it's hard to know when you're only limited to 2 fairly lopsided options. What is the best
this would
model?
be, my 2 cents.
I mean, I just want to reiterate, even if those numbers that were presented are, they might need to move a little bit. That's a huge difference just on an operational budget between a few $100,000 and nearly $2 million. Like I feel like that's like,
sure it is.
You have a headache, I can give you Advil, or I can give you like Percocet or something. It's just like 2 very big different things.
But you don't really get to see the next level of really sort of why that is. What are the assumptions that each of those sets of numbers are based on?
And so that's the role of the school committee,
I think we need to see more options, and we need to have more discussion. So I struggle with the way the question is posed. Do you want A or B? I kind of want to know what C, D, and E look like.
Yeah, and I yes, agreed. And I also would say, and I think you would agree with this. I don't think this is the point you were trying to make, that it's not just a question about the budget. It's not just like what's the more cheaper option. It's not that. Obviously, we want to make we're so lucky that with the override we can manage the schools the way, back to the way we want. And so that's the like, what is the school system that we want, and what is that going to cost? And, we can make decisions within that, and we can make the right decisions for the school district. So the price tag is going to be different, but
that's not even the real price tag, is my point. That's an artificial price tag.
I see what you're saying. Okay.
Because the real price tag is what's it going to cost to create the school that
vision for the school. I see what you mean. Yeah.
So if you were doing this kind of analysis at work, you'd probably have 5-year projections, capital, operating, what's the return on investment. You would have, I think, a more robust discussion around this in other venues. And I think we can do that as a community. I think that we should, frankly, kind of demand more of the school committee and the administration to present that a little bit more completely, a little bit more robustly.
And I think we're going to keep talking about this. I know we're running out of time. So, no, school is still in session. I'm not going out to recess yet. I still have more to say, Tom. You just hold that thought for a second.
I thought you were wrapping up.
No, not yet. I think we talked about this a little before when we were planning. We're very likely going to be talking about this again next week.
Yes.
I want to reiterate to everybody out there before we get sort of skewered on Facebook and stuff like that. We are not pretending to be the experts on anything on this.
Except on Family Feud.
That's
we
right.
Are the
that we
undisputed
are
champs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we are. Hold on, you're making me crazy. But we did we did our due diligence. We watched the meetings. We read the reports. We took notes. We spoke to people on city council. Yeah, exactly. So we're having the dialogue. We're trying to continue and have another forum for the dialogue. Again, call the school committee. We'll be talking about this again next week.
We are Melrosians.
Exactly.
Talking to Melrosians
Yeah, exactly.
about Melrose. I'm a guy who watches school committee meeting.
Right.
My youngest is a junior in high school, so this doesn't affect me personally. I really look in terms of the process and the dialogue in the city, and where do we have an opportunity to have a more robust discussion.
We're searching for the answers too.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
school is out, but before we go, do you want to talk about Kate Lipper-Gabbard?
Garabedian.
Jesus, screw it. I practiced it.
You did you?
And I know her, and I've even.
I know.
So apologies.
It's very high pressure being on the air like
It
this.
is. It
It's
is.
a good thing that wasn't a feud question.
So she was the highest vote getter.
Yes, she was.
In the
She
city.
topped the ticket for city council.
For city, and she was close to getting what the mayoral
Exactly.
candidate did. So she's announced
That she's going
she's
to
gonna run for Paul Broder's seat.
Yeah.
Yes. Any thoughts on that? Any early thoughts?
I just found out. No, I think that's exciting. Good luck, and it's honestly, I'm still like
I'm sort of still processing because I was excited that she was
Last week.
I
It was
know.
a week ago.
I was celebrating that she
It
was
a week ago.
elected.
Congratulations,
to
Paul Broder, by the way,
Yes.
and everybody who won the race.
Oh yeah, that's right. He won.
Because there were two races last week. The thing on
Oh,
Tuesday,
we weren't
and then
here,
there was the
yeah.
Family Feud.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true.
And
And
that sort of-
honestly, we were just training for Family Feud.
Right.
That civic engagement stuff doesn't count. It's Family Feud or nothing. No,
Right.
I'm just kidding.
I know what I was going to say, because you were talking about the budget and the numbers and all of that. And when you read up in the patch, shout out to Mike Karaji, by the way.
Always.
He's on top of everything all the time. But the override vote permeated the vibe of the election, according to a lot of the reporting, a lot of the people we talked to. And I think an opportunity like this with the Beebe School is, we're fortunate that we got the override money, but I think you've got to be very responsible and
Absolutely.
thoughtful and careful with that. So every dollar counts, I think, to your point. But I think, to be able to show a good, robust, thorough, well thought out, engaged process could help people who voted for the override feel comfortable that they supported something that was worthwhile, and people who maybe were on the other side of that feel that we're stepping up the level of responsibility, transparency, and all of that in that discussion. So that's my thoughts on
I
that.
I hope to see that as well. I think we will see more of that going forward with the administration, with the new mayor and new city council. I think I'm optimistic that we're going to see more.
I hope
of that.
so. It's a big thing to take
It's
on.
a lot. Yeah.
And there's 8 new counselors. If I don't know how the state rep thing works or how fast that works, but
we won't know the new state rep seat until the spring, because I believe the speaker has to set a date for a special
is it
election.
special election?
It'll be a
Wow.
special.
There was a piece in the patch about this, and there were maybe 3 mayoral races across the state that are all facing the same situation as we did here in Melrose, where our state rep was elected mayor.
Yeah.
So there will be a date set for a special election.
I think I heard about that on the horse race too. Steve Casella, who was part of this show
He is
way
part
back
of it.
when, and
He is part of it.
we got to have
Right.
him back.
I know
Yeah.
he's waiting for a mug.
Yeah.
He's
That's right.
regretting.
Oh, all right, we can
look,
Brian it.
Steve,
Actually, right.
Steve, look what you missed, Steve.
Yeah. So
All right.
so the special
Okay.
election coming up. So Kate Lipper-Garabedian
Yep.
was the first to announce, and who knows what else will happen between
knows
now
what's
and
coming.
whenever that special election is.
All I
Yeah.
know is when we get back here next week, we will still be the
We'll
Family Feud champs.
That's
Yeah.
true. That is true.
for at least another
All right.
year.
Yeah.
All right, so the win of the week
Obviously,
is
yes.
unanimous.
Yeah.
Family Feud.
Family Feud. So, I guess we'll see everybody.
Wait a minute.
Oh,
No, that's the win of the week.
That's
But
the
we have an upcoming event as well, which we have said a few times, but just to reiterate,
Okay.
Yes.
Tuesday, 11/19, in the Learning Commons at the high school.
Yep.
Special school committee meeting talking about the proposal for the Beebe School project. Right?
yes.
At 7. Did I say 7?
7.
Okay.
7.
I'm going to get buzzed. What
Yeah.
is it?
No,
There we go.
I think we should take one more moment just to appreciate the the significance of the win.
And what it means for Melrose.
Thank you, Melrose. What it means for Melrose, what it means for the show, the Rotary Club, all the good, the cascading.
All the good that we're doing.
The cascading effects across the community.
Absolutely.
Something that
we do what we can.
every Melrosean can be proud of.
That's true. It's true. So we
Thank
will
you.
see you
See you
around
around town.
everybody.